First of all, I want to say hi and welcome back to the Summer Art Series. We're pretty excited about being able to do it. I know it's a little different and this is not something that you're used to, but we're going to make this work, and I think you're going to enjoy the project we have for you today. To begin with, my name is Linda Slack, and I've taught some of you before for a number of years in this program. I was an art teacher at West Branch and still have a lot of connections with my students and my friends there, so I'm excited to be able to be here today too. The project we're going to do is based loosely on the artist Wassily Kandinsky, and it's very hard for me to say, so if I'm not saying it correctly, I apologize for that. It's a gentleman that you might want to look up a little bit. He was a Russian artist, very well known for being kind of the father of some abstract art that was a little different for his time. And I have a little tiny bit of a PowerPoint presentation for you to look at. It's only a couple slides, so if you'll take a minute and you'll look at the slides first, you'll get a little bit of history about him, and then it'll show you kind of what we're going to try to do with his processes. So we'll do that first, and then we'll get back to what we're going to do. Supplies that you're going to need, you have been provided, and I hope you appreciate the fact that you are given all the supplies you're going to need for the summer projects. To begin with, you are going to receive a cloth banner. Now yours will have a string like this. Now this one's painted already, so I don't want you to think this is what it's going to look like, but yours will be a string banner like this. This will be for what you're going to do your artwork on. I have one here that I took the material, and you'll see there's blue tape around it. I taped it to a piece of cardboard because I think you want it to be nice and solid and straight, and it doesn't wiggle around a little bit. So if you have a little bit of tape, I just use painter's tape. You can use Scotch tape, you can do whatever you might have around the house just to hold it in place. So there's the cloth. You're going to need a pencil. You're going to need some circle things. Now I grabbed I have a cup here, I have another cup here, I have the lid to an iced tea container, and the reason we're going to use these is we're going to trace around them. I know some of you probably have compasses, but we're not going to use a compass. We're just going to trace around some things. So you just need a few odd things here. You have been provided with markers. You're going to get a green one, a black one, a blue one, and a red one, and you're going to save those for later. You are also receiving a watercolor set. Yours may look a little bit different than this, but they're basically all the colors you need for watercolor, and 2 paintbrushes, a wider brush, and a small brush that comes inside your paint container. So we're going to use those in just a minute. You're going to probably need some paper towels or an old rag or something to wipe your brush off with. You're going to need a water cup. This is just an old plastic container that I put some water in, nothing very exciting. And I think probably that's about it. The biggest thing we need is your creativity, and we want you to make sure that you really enjoy the process. So we'll get started here in just a second. As you noticed, we taped our banner down. I already mentioned that to you, and again, that's because we want a surface that's going to allow us to paint on and make a nice smooth surface. This is what the project hopefully will look like when you're done. And I had mentioned Kandinsky. Kandinsky was an artist who played with color, and these circles are similar to the ones that you saw in the short little video. And you'll notice that there's a lot of different colors within the circles. We're kind of bullseyeing the colors, and so that's the kind of the focus what we're going to do. But first we have to paint the background, And you're going to use your wide brush for this, the widest one you have. And if you have brushes at home that are wider, you know, go for it. That would be great. Now, one thing you want to remember, these paint trays are dry. They don't have any way to make the paint work until you add water to them. So what we're going to do first is we're going to put drops of water in each of the trays. The reason I am rinsing my brush between each color is because I don't want to mix the paint in the containers here. I am not putting water in the black or the brown because we're going to kind of avoid those colors. We want our finished product to be nice and bright, so please stay away from using the black or the brown paint. To begin with, we're going to take our biggest brush and we're just going to wet a little bit of the material. You're going to notice that your material is going to resist or stop the water from soaking through right away. So we want to make sure we give it a little bit of a head start here. So I'm just adding plain water on here, nothing magical about it. And then I'm going to start with some colors. Now you'll notice I used yellow and orange and a little bit of red and a little bit of blue. But you may use any colors you want. You could paint a rainbow if you would like to. So this time maybe I'll start out with some blue paint, and I'm just going to lay the paint on my cloth banner. And you'll notice I'm not being real neat about it because I'm just going to kind of allow the colors to mix together just slightly. And then I'm going to take maybe a little more blue and I'll put it up here a little bit, fill in some of the color background. Okay, and let's go with a little green. So we'll put some green in. Now what's going to happen when the green touches the blue? It's going to run together a little bit. That's perfectly okay. We don't worry about that. I'm going to need a little bit more green up here, I think. Now this is a place where you may be able to play excuse me, with the paint a little bit. Experiment. You'll notice what happens when the yellow touches the blue. You all should remember, yellow and blue make green, right? So keep going here, and I'm doing mine really quickly. You take your time. You do not need to rush. Take your time. You can play, and one of the nice things about this project is that you can start it, and then if you need to go outside because it's really nice outside and you say, oh, you know what, I'm going to come back to this, you can do that. It won't hurt it at all. All right, now I'm going to grab a little bit of purple, and you'll see I'm sort of working on filling up the whole space. Make sure you paint the whole banner. Okay. And again, you can kind of play with the colors a little bit. I think I'll put some purple down here. I'm sort of making these up as I go, so there's no right way and there's no wrong way. But I think you will notice if I put black or brown on here, I'm afraid that it would ruin it because we're trying to make the colors the important part here. You notice there's some color, dark color coming through. That's the cardboard underneath. That will not stay. That's not going to ruin my painting at all. All right. So I could leave it like that. I could walk away and come back in another 10 or 15 minutes and see how it looks. Or I can keep adding just a little bit more color right now to get it more intense. Intense means the brighter part of the colors here. And then, okay. All right, we've let this dry just a little bit. And if it still feels a little bit damp, then you can take it and sort of fan it back and forth. If you have a hair dryer that your family member would let you use, don't use it without asking first. You can take a hair dryer and kind of go over it just to dry it enough so that we have a surface that doesn't soak up everything we're going to be doing next, but just a little bit of dry. All right, now you need your round things. Now I mentioned to you I used cups. And I'm going to try to do this upside down so it looks like you have a mimic of this, so that you'll see I'm going to start up here. You probably will be looking at your paper and say, oh, well, the top of my paper is here. I'm going to do my drawing around that. So I'm going to take a pencil, and this pencil isn't going to hurt your cloth at all, and you're just going to make a little trace. I want this circle here. You'll notice it's not real dark. We don't want it to be real dark, but there's one circle, and this one I kind of like this size, and I'm going to overlap it just a little bit. Overlap, remember, means that you put it next to or on top of another shape, and you see I overlapped it just a little bit here. It's not ruining the design at all, it's just kind of making a little different space. And then I want a little circle, and I'm going to use the top of this iced tea bottle, and I'm going to trace around it. And I kind of like that size, so I'm going to save that for later because I may use that inside. And now I'm going to use the bottom of this cup. So what I'm going to suggest to you is that you trace around, I would say 5 shapes, 5 circles. If you want to do 6, that would be fine. We don't want to get too many. You'll notice here I have 6 on this one. Here I've only got the 4, but I have some big ones, so I think I'm only going to do 5 on this one. And I'm going to overlap just like I did before. All right, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 circles. Now you'll notice in our finished one, we have kind of a bullseye look to it. We have a circle within a circle within a circle. Kandinsky did that too. He kind of played with the way the colors were, and he put them next to each other, inside, 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 and got smaller and smaller and smaller. You can do freehand circle bullseyes. Freehand means you just draw it yourself. Or you can go back to your circle shapes. I said I wanted to use this little lid again, so I'm going to try to put that close to the center of my big circle because I sort of like that shape. And I'll trace around it. Now I have one circle inside of another. But I want more circles. I could choose to draw them freehand, and you just very lightly take your pencil. Now these are not going to be perfect circles. We don't care that they're not perfect circles. We're just making some guidelines and some shapes. All right? So that's enough of that. Now we're going to get to the fun part and do some more painting. I'm going to start with this large painting of this large circle, and I'm going to start painting it. And I'm going to take some red, and I'm just going to lay it in there and kind of stay close to the line that I traced. Don't worry if you go outside the line. Don't worry if you don't keep it even. It's really okay. It's going to allow us to have some really nice creativity. You will notice if your cloth is not real dry, the colors are going to bleed. That means that they are going to spread out a little bit, and see how they're doing it there. That's not a problem. Don't worry about it. Take another color. Again, remember, we rinse our brush. When we change colors, rinse your brush. And I'm going to lay this orange right next to, in fact, I'm kind of overlapping. I'm touching the red a little bit. Lay it right on top of there. Let the color kind of move in. And I'm going to stop talking here for a minute, and you can just watch. Like the red and the orange and the yellow together, but I want to add another color to the center, so I'm going to put a dot of blue. I'm just going to place it there and see how it spreads, and if it spreads out a little bit, that's okay. And I'm going to go now with green because I think that will help brighten it up. Now these colors are pretty intense. Remember, we said intense means the brightness or the vivid color here. This will dry a little lighter than what it looks like right now. Okay? So there you go. Looks like a bullseye. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and it kind of all ran together. And again, don't worry about any of that is bleeding on the outside, or you notice my green here is bleeding into the yellow. That's okay. I don't mind that at all, and I can come back to that when it dries. I'm going to do one more here. I think I'll start with this one. Now you notice I haven't drawn any circles in there. So I just want to play with the circle shape, and I'm going to just add paint. I'm not going to draw a circle first. I'm going to just kind of keep the round shape of the circle I traced. Stay inside of that. If I want it to be darker, I add more color. You can do that without adding water to it. And you'll notice where I overlapped here, the colors are kind of bleeding together again. That's okay, we don't care. And I'm going to keep working on these while you work on yours. Okay, as you can see, I kept going and I added a few things to it. Now let's go back. We took colors. Remember, we were making concentric circles, a circle inside of a circle, inside of a circle, inside of a circle. And we had red and orange, and the yellow really kind of blended nicely with the orange here and a little bit of the green, and there's blue in the middle. And you notice it did bleed out a little bit. My cloth might have been a little wetter than I would have liked, but it did not in any way ruin my piece of art. In fact, I sort of like the idea that the colors are bleeding out a little bit. And that word bleeding is just a term that shows how things are kind of smoothing out and running together a little bit. All right, so we've got these colors. Now we need to define them a little bit. Define means we're going to outline the spaces that we've created with the color. And we have our permanent markers, and I like to use the marker that is closest to the color that I want, that I have painted. So you'll see here I had blue painted on the outside circle. I used a blue permanent marker to outline the circle. I can keep using that same blue permanent marker to go around one of my inner circles. And if I don't have a specific circle there, I'm just going to draw one. Even if it's not part of what I had drawn originally, I know it needed another circle in there, so I'm just going to add one. And I'm going to use the blue there. Here, you can see that my paint bled quite a bit, so I have lost the original circle I was painting. But as I mentioned to you before, it didn't ruin it, so I'm just going to go back and I'm going to add a circle. And this one isn't going to be very perfect because I'm not tracing around anything. I'm just sort of making up one. You'll notice it's kind of a flat squish circle a little bit. That hasn't hurt my painting at all or my design. I'm keeping the blue marker in my hand because I'm going to go down here now and I'm going to add a circle. Now, I went over the purple and the blue with this marker, but I wanted to make a circle in the center, so I just added it. And now I'm going to go to my red marker and I'm going to outline where I had traced the circle. Remember, we traced the cup here, and we're just going to outline very quickly. And I'm kind of hurrying a little bit because I know you are anxious to get at your projects. So I don't want to spend the whole time here talking and having you have to watch everything I do. I don't have too many more places I have red, but I think I'll take it and I'll go in here and I'll outline. Notice my circles are not real round, but again, that's okay. We don't really care. Now I'm going to take the green permanent marker and I'm going to fill in this circle a little bit, and I'm going to do this one as well, just to outline so that we can see where the shapes. Kandinsky used circles a lot, but if you look at his work, and the one that I showed you on the quick video at the very beginning, you'll notice his were almost kind of square looking circles. He had some real odd shapes going here. So we're not going to worry about it too much. I'm going to fill that in. I think I'm going to use the blue on the outside of this one. No, I'm going to use the red. This is the nice part about this. I can kind of keep going here. And as I mentioned, I'm sort of hurrying a little bit. Where I overlapped, I'm going to overlap there as well. And I'll keep going with this. I'm not going to finish it all right now because I want you to see what else we're going to do. You notice I added a long black line here. I added a straight black line and another one, and I'm going to add another here. These are, I call them kind of abstract flowers, and these are going to be their stems. So this large circle here needs to have a stem that's going to go all the way down to the bottom of my canvas. And this one, I think I'm going to add a curved line, and I'm going to stop it here because it's going to go under that one. And then I'm going to bring it back down, and it's going to hit the bottom also. Then I have some leaves, and these leaves are very easy to draw. You're going to make it look like a football or an eye, and you can put a couple on one side of the stem, and I'm not saying you have to use 4 or 5. You can use as many as you want, or you don't have to put many at all. You might just choose to put one here, and I put a little line in the middle to show a vein. I'll go back and do that, and maybe I'll put one here, and maybe I don't need any more. And this one looks to me like it's just crying for some little ones. So I'm going to give it some little leaves, and I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, 4 on each side of the stem. And down here I'm going to add a couple more little ones. And I think that's enough for now. I don't really need to put any more. I'm going to go back to my watercolor paint. And this time I'm just going to lay in some green right inside those marker lines. If you go over the permanent marker, you are not going to hurt it at all. It's going to stay nicely and not bleed the marker. That's why we use permanent markers. If you have watercolor markers, you could not do this because the color would blend and bleed. And then I will finish that. I will keep adding more colors to my leaves. I could even go back and, remember we rinse our brush each time. I could go back and add a little yellow to a leaf if I wanted to make it a lighter green, and then put a little green on top, not much. And it makes it a little bit lighter green than those down there. And you can play with it a little bit. It's kind of nice to be able to play with the markers, right? Now the very last thing that I would like you to do is, if you'll notice, and this is the finished one, I went around and I embellished the circles. Embellish means that I added some little details to kind of make it fun. Here I did sort of a zigzag line around the outside edge of my circle. Here I added some little rays that sort of looks like sun or wiggly worms. Some dots with dots inside. Here I made some lines with dots on the outside. You can be as creative as you want, and those of us who have worked with Zentangle, and some of you will remember when we did Zentangle here at the library, we are kind of taking some of those designs that we made and using them in our Kandinsky painting here. So I'm going to take this marker and I'm just going to add some little scallops inside here. There's no wrong way to this. Remember, you cannot make a mistake in art. You only have creative opportunities. So if you don't like it, go back and add something else to it, or color it in, take your paint, go over it, create something else with it. Maybe I'll add another design around the outside ring here. I might take this blue marker, and I kind of like what I did here with the lines, so I'm going to take and put some lines around the outside of this circle, and I'm just going to keep trying to keep it fairly even, and then I like the dots on the end. So you can see this is not anything real difficult. It's just what your imagination allows you to do. Be as creative as you want. And keep going. There you go. I might have to add one here, I think. And maybe I would add another color inside, or I would add some more designs inside this circle. And here where I overlapped, maybe I would make an interesting design or a different shape. So I'm going to tell you that I'm going to keep working on my project here, and you're going to be working on your project at home. And when you get yours done, I believe that the library would love to see your finished projects, and I definitely would like to see them. So you're going to be asked to post them and share what your finished work looks like. So we will leave this one and I'll keep playing with it. This is what we're going to try to accomplish when we're done. And Kandinsky would be very proud of you for how you created with color and line and shape. So good luck and have fun with it.